Welcome to the Mental Playbook podcast. I'm here with Rebecca Smith, former gymnast, coach, founder, and CEO of Complete Performance Coaching and Perform Happy. Hi, Rebecca. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, I'm so excited to dive in. Can you first share a little bit about your journey and how your passion for sports, specifically gymnastics, kind of started?
Yes. So I was the too hyper kid who my mom, had me in the mom and me, and then she actually pulled me and my brother out because we couldn't sit still and follow directions in class. So we, later to find out we both have ADHD. So we were just doing our best as little 6-year-old, wild kiddos. And then she put us back in when I was 8. So, starting gymnastics at age 8 is late. A lot of kids start at 3 and just keep going through. So I felt like I was always at a disadvantage. I was always kind of too tall, too old. And it was really this old mentality of you have to be this tiny person who
Yeah.
starts at a really young age and has all talent. And if you get injured or scared, you're out. It was very much like I think of it like a disposable children type of sport. Like, nope, you're not cut out for it. Moving on. We only want the highly talented, tiny people. So I did the best I could with that culture and that mindset. And I ended up having a lot of little mini injuries and being in pain a lot, and then also being really afraid. So I was the kid shaking on the beam in competitions, like physically convulsing to the point where my scores were affected because it looked like I was wobbling. I would have these beautiful routines in practice, and then I would just like malfunction in competition. And then I also got afraid of going backwards. So I could do, round off back handspring, back tuck, but then it would just disappear sometimes where I'd like thud to a stop or I couldn't get myself to go. So I was kind of labeled the team head case. And then by age 14, I quit. And it's not this, elite athlete, amazing story, but it's 100% what got me to doing what I do is that I help the 12, 13, 14-year-old girl who thinks she's too tall, too old, or too scared to realize, there was a girl who's 6'1" who was at nationals this year for level 10. And I was like, I wish I could have known that that was totally possible. But so, yeah, that's what brought me to want to support the athletes who get a little scared to be able to compete at a high level anyway.
Yeah, and with those hurdles during your gymnastics, what made you stick with it? Was it just the passion?
I loved it. I mean, people were always like, you should do volleyball or you could do ballet, or they had all these ideas for me because I was 5 feet tall, which was massive already. And I was like, but I don't want to do volleyball. I like gymnastics. I was always doing flips on my dad's bed, and we had a trampoline in our yard, and like that's where we were 24/7. And I was just like, why would I do any other sport? This is the one I like the best. Why can't I just love this one?
Yeah, yeah. So now you have complete performance coaching. Can you explain what that is as well as Perform Happy and what led you to start them?
Yes. So Complete Performance Coaching was this company I started 10 years ago that was just basically me working one-on-one with athletes. I worked with a lot of swimmers, I worked with a lot of gymnasts, and I really have specialized in individual sport athletes. People who I kind of, it's like the scary sports or the pretty sports where it's a type of person who's kind of a perfectionist and they're being judged by, a tenth of a second or a tenth of a point. And I found that I just really enjoy those sports personally. I actually don't know much about team sports, which I felt like in sports psych grad school, I was the weirdo who was like, I didn't watch the football game. I don't know I actually don't know what happened, but I know what's going on in collegiate gymnastics or, elite figure skating. But so I just started to really love working with those sports. And I had girls who came to me struggling with fear. And I honestly, like, I had did gymnastics for 10 years, and then I coached gymnastics for 15 years. And then I went to and got a graduate degree in sports psychology, and I still didn't 100% know how to help with mental blocks. It was baffling. And so, honestly, my first dozen clients, I was like, let's figure this out together. Like, I have some information, I have some knowledge, but I don't know if I can actually get you through this. And then over time, I realized that there was this kind of like three-step process that I was taking everybody through. And my schedule got to be so full that I hired on another coach. And then Perform Happy is my membership program where all of my kind of best techniques and strategies are kind of like chopped up into 5 or 10 minute exercises. And that way it's really portable, it's really accessible for busy athletes. So instead of having to do like 25 sessions with me, they just do their little trainings in the car on the way to practice and they get the same results. And now I have a team of 7 coaches who are former elite gymnasts. We've got PhDs, clinical psychologists, basically all people who are better athletes than me and are smarter than me who come on and work with these kids who are struggling with anxiety in their sport.
That's an awesome team. You brought up perfectionism. Is that something you ever dealt with as an athlete?
Oh my gosh, yeah. I think anyone who's attracted to one of those individual sports tends to be somebody who kind of holds themselves to a really high standard. And for me, that looked like all or nothing. So I was either going to win conditioning or I was going to cheat. I was either going to, like be the best one in the class or I didn't want to try. Like I'm going to win at chess or I'm not playing. And so it was very much like if I'm not going to be the best, I don't want to. It doesn't sound fun to me. And so the way that that kind of shook out for me was I'd have all this potential that was kind of untapped because I would give up on myself really easily, or I'd be so terrified of setting a goal because I didn't want to fall short that I kind of underperformed. And so I learned that that's essentially just having a fixed mindset. So Dr. Carol Dweck does research on fixed versus growth mindset. And it's that idea that you have to do it now or else it doesn't count, or it has to be perfect, or why bother? And it's kind of, again, rooted in the culture of these individual sports from my perspective that if you're not going to get a 10, then like, why would you be here aiming for a 7? And then if I'm like, well, I'm not good enough to get a 10, I guess I should just quit. And so I quit a lot of things. I quit my sport. I quit college after the first year. I quit a marriage. I quit a career. It was like all the way up to age 23. I just was like, it's too hard. I quit. It's too hard. I quit because of the perfectionism. And finally, at that age, I was like, all right, something's got to give because I can't live like this. And I went back to school and I started just taking baby steps into things. Like
Right.
I'm just going to take one class or I'm just going to like do the one thing that's in front of me. And I learned that like that essentially is a growth mindset that you're like I can handle a challenge. I'm just going to do what's in front of me. We're not going to think about the big picture yet. We're just going to work really hard in this moment. And then I end up, with a career, a master's degree, amazing husband, but it takes those little baby steps out of your comfort zone. So I like to call myself a recovering perfectionist now.
I like that. Yeah. You also brought up mental blocks. I want to know, is there a common misconception parents or coaches might have about mental blocks, especially in youth athletes?
Yes. So a mental block is when an athlete can physically do a skill and then they start to like kind of short circuit on it. So this happens in tennis where you can't serve anymore. This happens in baseball. This happens in gymnastics or cheer or anytime that everyone has seen you do that skill well. And then all of a sudden you can't do it. And they look at you like, well, just do it. What's the problem? I don't know why you're not just doing it. You're the best one here at doing that. But it happens when there's so much pressure and the athlete has automated the skill so they don't need to think. For a gymnast, they don't need to think, swing my arms, jump back, land on my hands, pop off. They're just like back handspring. They
Yeah.
don't. And then when the brain starts to put on the brakes and frees you up on it, then you start to go, wait, what do I actually do? I swing my arms? Do I push here? They have to essentially go back to basics and relearn the skill. And it is one of the worst things that can happen as like for an adolescent athlete because they're like, did I run out of talent? Is there something wrong with me? I thought there was something deeply wrong with me because I couldn't go, but it's really, really common. Like Simone Biles, the best in the world, happened to her throughout her career. But it was so hush hush that, nobody was going to talk about it because if you get mental blocks, you won't get on the Olympic team or nobody's going to want you at their college or no one's, it's like, no, everybody. has these moments where their brain throws up a stop sign because it perceives a threat. Like if you're walking off a curb and there's a bus coming, you're going to freeze,
Yeah.
which is great. We like that. If you're about to fall off a cliff, you're going to freeze. If you see a tiger, you freeze in the cave. You're supposed to do that. So it's not that reaction that's the problem. It's usually the environment that is causing it. Like for some reason, the athlete has not or is not either trusting themselves or something in their environment, and it's making their brain go into high alert.
Mm. Yeah, so I used to do gymnastics and cheer. I quit both of those, but I do remember I would get those mental blocks. I was a flyer and I could do a prep super easily, but just sometimes it would just going up, I would be like, wait, how do I do this? Wait, what am I doing? So I'm curious to know, how do you help athletes kind of build that trust and confidence in themselves when there's a fear there or there's a mental block?
Yes. So I always start with what can you do? Because you get so stuck in the I can't do it. That's the initial reaction. I can't. And people are like, why? You can. What's the problem? But you're like, no, it's not working. I don't know why, but I can't do it. So that's that fixed mindset. We go into growth mindset. We go, well, what can you do today? Can you do the prep? Can you do it with an extra spotter? Can you do it if there's a mat under you? Could you do it in slow motion? Could you do it with these stronger spotters? We find the progression where your brain will give you a green light, and then you do that. And that just, it's like you just need a win when you're feeling so stuck and hopeless. So you go, okay, I'm just going to do part of the skill. I'm just going to, do it when nobody's looking or whatever you have to set up for yourself so that you can feel like you can exhale and drop your shoulders a little. And honestly, you have to feel free to fail. Like, okay, I'm going to do it a little ugly right now, or I'm going to do it a little sloppy. We're just going to do something. What can I do? I can do it ugly. Okay, great. Then you go do it. And then your brain's like, okay, we didn't die. Good to know. Okay, let's try a little more. Let's get a little harder. Now, the biggest mistake people make is that they're like, I use the beam as an example. They're like, we want to go from the line to the low beam to the high beam. It's like, do three, go. Where I'm like, no, you're going to be on the line for, 5. And then you're going to be on the low beam for a week. And then you're going to be on the medium beam with mats stacked all the way up for a week. And you're going, what? But I already did this last season and I won. So why would I have to spend a week on the medium beam with all these mats? And it's because your brain has to relearn that every single time that you do it and you succeed, you exhale and go, okay, I can. And then you just kind of climb that ladder. But the biggest mistake people make is trying to rush it. And then their brain throws up that stop sign and sends you back to square one. So you have to be really intentional about learning to listen to what your brain is telling you rather than a lot of athletes who are like, shut up, brain, I just got to go. Shut up, brain, I can't listen to you right now. And a lot of athletes, actually, especially higher level, they have to basically completely relearn how to have a relationship where they listen to themselves and then can communicate that to a coach before their brain is going to give them the green light again.
Yeah. It's scary because that fear can really take over just all of a sudden. So it's whether how you react to it and what you do with it next. I like the little steps. Um,
Yes.
what are a few early signs of performance anxiety in young athletes?
Yeah, I mean, the parents can see it. Parents can see it. They see the shoulders creeping up, the body language. I mean, parents can watch their kid from the bleachers and be like, uh-oh, they're going to hesitate or they're not on their game right now. I mean, I think any of us can tell, like you look at your little nephew or whatever and you're like, oh gosh, he's so nervous. They shuffle around, their shoulders are up. For the female athletes, it's like fixing the hair. For me, I was like wiping my sweaty hands all the time because I was like so worried I was going to slip. It's like wiping my hands, wiping my feet. Everyone has these different like fidgets, and then you ask how they're doing, they're like, I'm fine. You go, okay, I don't know if you're fine. And so awareness is always the foundation of confidence. So for an athlete to realize, okay, what are my signs? Like I'm like gonna feel like I'm sweating even if I'm not. Somebody else is gonna need to fix their hair a million times. Somebody else is gonna like have shallow breathing. So you want to pay attention to yourself as an athlete and go, okay, when my stomach hurts, it's not because of breakfast. It's because I'm worried. Or, for me, it's in my chest and my throat. So, athletes really, you want to tune in and start to notice what are my personal signs and what causes it.
Mhm.
Is it the second I think about the outcome that I get that pain in my stomach? Or when I start imagining things going wrong, do I get that headache? And the more you can get to the beginning of it, the more you can prevent it. So, like some people are like, how do I stop the nerves once I am nervous? And I always tell them it's way easier to prevent them than to stop them. So, if you address the perfectionism, then often you can relax because you go, hey, if I make a mistake, I'm going to learn and it's going to make me better. So let's just do our best today versus I have to do well. This is important. This really matters. What if I don't? Then the brain gets all tense and then you start to, have strange things happen in your body. So that's like my top tip is if you can legalize failure and mistakes under the condition that you promise you're going to learn from it and get better, then it's going to, no matter what happens in this competition or this game, you're going to be better next time. So you just kind of accept, like, this is my process and let's go have some fun.
Yeah. So I want to talk about the culture now. I don't know, have you read the book Little Girls in Pretty Boxes or like watched like the Athlete A documentary?
You know what's funny is I have not
Mm.
because I have like it's triggering, so I should, right? But I know exactly like what it's all about. Like these little girls being forced to do things that no little girl should have to do. And there is like a little guilt to me. I'm like, I really should, but I don't want to because it's just like, ugh, I can't. I'm like so empathetic. So, and I've got my own, from 10 years of working with
Yeah,
kids,
yeah.
it's like there are so many stories and and that's why I'm on this crusade that I'm on. Is that it started out 10 years ago of let's help kids learn how to overcome mental blocks and now it's let's prevent them by changing the culture of youth sports.
Yeah. No, I'm sure as a coach, you know, all those different types of experiences and um yeah, I mean, I did I took a sports literature class and one of our units was on um, just what these gymnasts and ice skaters, these challenges they would face and how it would affect both their physical and mental health. And I was curious if you could share what a toxic sports culture kind of looks like and how athletes can seek support when they feel like they're the only one experiencing it.
Yeah. So much of what my online program has become is helping parents get their kids into safer places to train. It is not what I intended, but
Yeah.
I mean, we would teach these kids, this is our framework for overcoming a mental block. It absolutely works. And there were some kids that stayed stuck and they stayed stuck and they stayed stuck. And we're like, what are we doing wrong? We have to change what. And it was always a parent putting pressure
Mhm.
or an abusive coach.
Yeah.
And those are things that we can't control. We can help with the parents. Like we teach the parents how to not unintentionally put pressure. But then there's these coaches that we hear about that are just coaching the way it's always been done. And that's the kind of coaches I had. And that's the kind of coaches that most people my age had and many athletes today have. And it's just a lack of information. So they look at this is the way I was coached. I was successful and I have successful athletes that I coach. So therefore, we're going to keep doing what we're doing, which is belittling people, ignoring people, withholding support, yelling. A kid says, I don't feel safe. I need a spot. And they say, you don't need a spot. Go do it. And then a kid standing on the beam crying and they go, well, you can't leave that event or go home until you do it. But their brain is like, but that I can't. I might die. And so then these kids get to the place where they're like, well, I guess I'd rather break my neck than be in trouble. So they just try it. And then it roots the fear down in deeper. Then finally, these kids, they leave these toxic environments where they don't have a voice, where the communication is terrible, where the parents are afraid of retaliation if they say anything. And they find a place where they can be nurtured. And I mean, I saw a kid who struggled. The moment I talked to her, the first time I was like, you got to get out of that gym. Like, That is not a place for confidence.
Yeah.
And mom was like, yeah, it's okay. They're doing their best. And then so, 6 months later, 9 months later, she's still struggling. Gets kicked out of the gym because she went to a camp with a previous coach. They kick her out. They're just like, you are off the team. So she finally has to leave, gets all her skills back in 2 weeks because she's in a place where she's listened to and she has a voice. And that's the thing. So if you're in an environment where you don't have a voice, you have to start using it anyway. And that is scary and terrifying for a lot of young athletes to say, Coach, I don't feel confident enough to try that right now. Could I do it over there instead? Or could you stand there? No. Okay. Could I try it there? No. Could I get this mat? No. And I tell them, you come in with 8 options of things you can do. So they know you're trying. They know you're not just being lazy or making excuses. You're like, okay, I think I could do this. Okay. And I'm like, you keep asking and keep asking and keep asking. And eventually they're gonna roll their eyes and be like, oh my gosh, stop talking, whatever. And I'm like, then we take that as a win and you go do your progression and you get some
Yeah.
success. But that's not as efficient as just finding a place to train where you're nurtured and listened to. Like, but not everyone has access, unfortunately. So if you're in the boonies and you only have one gym in a 4 hour driving radius, then you do have to learn how to filter out the negativity. Unfortunately, but I'd rather everybody just like leave because when
Yeah.
you stop paying tuition there, it's going to have to go extinct eventually.
Yeah. And what you kind of brought up is bringing in those 8 different options. I really like that because sometimes when we speak up, we're facing consequences, and that's not fair. So giving them another option, I think, can be beneficial. Um, so how can parents and coaches become better mentors in helping athletes set boundaries and advocate for themselves?
Yeah. So I have a podcast called Perform Happy, and I love interviewing great coaches.
Mhm.
And so if any coaches are like, I want to be a better coach, like check it out because they're like David Kikuchi, who was the coach of Ellie Black, who's a multiple Olympian from Canada, is like this soft-spoken, kind human who is like, you're scared, great. I'll spot you. Let's get you a mat. And she would get scared and get scared, and he'd be like, all right, get your mat again. And there was no drama about it. And those coaches, they listen. That's literally the difference is that the coaches who have happy, healthy, successful athletes are the ones who listen. Samantha Peshek, who was a 2008 gymnastics Olympian, she would walk into practice and go, my confidence is low today. I don't think I'm going to be able to hit the assignment, coach. Can I do double on the low beam? So she would come in, be honest, be able to have the awareness of what was going on with her, communicate what she needed to her coach. Her coach would say yes or no, not that, but you could do this instead. They collaborated. So this whole like power dynamic of I'm the one who says it and you just do it, it's not efficient. It's
Yeah.
not. Because then the kids they're freezing up and upset and the coach is mad and it's like what if you just like have a conversation about it and then you're pushing them out of their comfort zone still, which is your job as a coach, but you're allowing them to tell you if you have pushed them beyond their breaking point or if what you're asking them to do isn't going to be productive because they know that they can't be successful at that right now yet. So it is a fine balance, but that collaboration and communication is key. And then for parents, honestly, less is more when it comes to talking to your kid about sports. The more, like, if you get in a place where you have excellent communication with their coaches and you trust them, let the coaches do it.
Yeah.
That's the best way to set your kid up for success because then the kid's not going to go in and be like, well, my mom told me I should put my hands like this and my coach told me I should put my hands like that. So who am I going to let down today?
Mhm.
So instead, parents are just like, I love you no matter what, even if you fell 12 times, and here's your food.
Yeah.
That sets the kids up for way more success than your pep talk in the car.
Right. Yes, because it can be a lot of pressure.
Yes.
What role should coaches play in promoting mental well-being as well as skill development?
I mean, they have to go hand in hand from my perspective. If you want to give, coaches, they want successful kids. Coaches and parents and kids, I think they all have the same goal, which is success, right? They want everyone to be successful. And if you want your kids to be successful, you have to set them up for success. You have to listen to them And and that mentor piece is so important because you're like when you connect with humans and you're not just like weeding through for that one golden talented kid and kind of chucking the rest, if you connect with each kid, you get to figure out what their strengths are. So that one tiny little powerhouse who we all know is going to go the farthest in the sport potentially,
Yeah.
that kid might burn out because she gets afraid and it's the first thing that ever happened to her and she quits. Whereas I coached a kid who was not naturally talented. She was strong, but girlfriend could not get her body in the right position to save her life. It was like the most awkward. We're like, oh no, belly in. Okay, I don't know about that. Who let this kid on the team? We were like, oh boy, she tries hard, but boy, we
Yeah.
were pushing a rock up a hill with this kid. But that kid had so much heart and she worked so hard that she was the kid who got the UCLA
Oh.
team position. Like she competed for UCLA in gymnastics. And the other girl quit at level 8, didn't even get to high school doing gymnastics, even though she was crazy talented. So being able to be with those kids and go, okay, this is the kid who's got all the heart that we're going to give her leadership roles because she's so motivating.
Mhm.
This kid, she's like so talented, but she's kind of a punk. Okay, we're gonna give her, she's gonna mentor the younger kids and we're gonna like help her to figure out. So like being a great coach means finding roles for everybody on your team
I
so
like
that everyone feels valued and then everyone has an opportunity to rise to their full potential. And it might not be the one that you expect if you're just looking for that one kid who's got it naturally. So yeah, I love like, and then what you notice like as a coach or a gym owner even is that you nurture the kids, then they nurture each other, then they stay on all the way through high school, even if they're not going to the Olympics because they love it. And then they become your most amazing coaches. And then you just have this incredible like ripple effect of culture that's way bigger than just a few great scores.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that. So looking back, what would you tell your younger self during your gymnast years, now that you know so much more?
Oh my gosh. I just imagine like grown up me walks over to her on the beam and is like, hey, what can you do? Don't stand up there and cry. Like, it's okay to cry, but let's stop trying to do the thing that isn't working and let's find something that you can do. Well, my coach won't let me. Well, if you were to ask her, what would you say? Okay, have you ever asked her? No.
Mhm.
Okay, so we don't actually know if she would say yes or no. We just are assuming. So let's go over here. Let's try some. Okay, how did that feel? Oh, that felt good. Okay, great. Yay, that's a success. What? No, really, that's a success. You did something. Just to be able to give her the ability to give herself credit for something, even if it's not perfect. And then, being that cheerleader, like my favorite thing is telling kids like that was awesome. They'll be like, I did terrible at the meet. I'm like, define terrible. They're like, well, I did great on 3 events. And actually I did everything great on the fourth, but this one skill. I'm like, okay. So wait a second. You did amazing, 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 good. And then one thing there's room for improvement. They're like, yeah, I guess so. Just to be able to give that perspective to little Rebecca and be like, you can give yourself credit for the things that are good and you can learn, and there's nothing wrong with you. You're not too tall, too old, or too scared to do something that you really want little by little. So just start where you can and go from there.
Yeah, and it can be hard with self-doubt, especially at a young age. I'm curious to know, how do you help athletes build both that physical and mental resilience?
Yeah. So when you say like, what would I say to my
Yeah.
me? I'm like, you got to just do these 12 challenges and perform happy, and you'll get all of it. Like you can't. It's not something that you can be like, here's the one thing. Now you're gonna be confident for life. It's like you can't go and work out one time and be strong. Unfortunately, be sore for a couple days, and then you'll be back to where you were at before. So there kind of has to be this commitment to a new mindset that you apply every day or at least regularly.
Yeah.
So ideally, you are facing a challenge all the time and having those tools come in when you need them. So, like, you want to be pushing yourself to the edge. You want to be doing something that's as hard as you possibly can do and push your mind beyond its comfort zone so that you then realize, oh, okay, my I can do it zone is actually out of my comfort zone. So I can swim faster. I can push harder. I can hold that plank 5 seconds longer. Like I can do a little more. So that's why physical activity is such an amazing vehicle for learning resilience, is because you're constantly able to push your edges. And if you go in and that's your goal, like I want to come home tired, or I want to be the one who like almost died in the end of that lap or at the end of that conditioning set, but I didn't. Like that's the person who's going to be successful in life because they're like, bring on the hard stuff because that's what's going to make me not afraid of hard stuff in the future.
Yeah, that's how you grow. What's one story or memorable experience with an athlete that sticks with you?
Oh my gosh. Oh, there's so many. One that comes to mind is one of my gymnasts who just, one of those like a lot of the kids I work with are very talented and they are their own worst enemy. And so they like are winning level one, two, three, four, five, and then like their brain's like, whoa, these skills are scary and big. Hold on. And so one athlete, she had gotten injured. And so she was kind of invincible up to that point, and then she got injured, and her brain was like, oh, I don't know about this. And so she got where she was just like free to throw anything. Her brain kind of pulled her back to reality and was like, whoa, like this is scary, this is dangerous. And so she had to kind of rebuild confidence after injury, which she was able to do. Then she got injured again, and she was doing all the right things, like
Yeah.
nutrition and sleep and PT and like really that family's like, we're going to do this right. Our kid's going to come out of this sport healthy and happy. And so she got injured again. And then when she got injured again, she was like, well, I'm showing up to practice every day and I'm going to start a mental training program in my gym. And so she like had everybody bring journals and then each of the upper level gymnasts would lead the mental training one day. And so they all got an opportunity to be like, this is what we're journaling about today. And so she just was all in of like, I'm going to condition, I'm going to train my mind. And then she came back and was able to do like just bars and then bars and beam. And then finally, the first event that she could do, like all four events, she wins regionals. It's like, it just goes to show that when you are all in on the mental side, you go back in and you're totally resilient. Now, this girl, I'm like, there's nothing that could stop her.
Mhm.
She's been through so much and she is so positive and so like, bring it on, life. Like I can do whatever you need me to do. And I'm just like, oh, I like that's what I hope for my kids. I have two little girls. I'm like, if I could have girls that have to go through hard stuff but come out the other side, this like glowing example of life, then it'll definitely have been worth it.
Oh, yeah. I love that story. With all the work that you do, what's your mental playbook that keeps you going?
Yes. So I have my own personal, like little daily things I do. So I start my day with a gratitude list. So I write out 10 things I'm grateful for. And I don't just do like, pillow, dog, house, like I write like, I'm grateful for the sounds the birds make in the springtime. I try to like really kind of feel into it. I'm grateful for my sweet little doggy who loves me no matter what.
Mhm.
And I'm like really present with, and sometimes it takes me forever because I'm like, ugh, I don't know, something new, but for the most part, it's like a 1 minute activity. I write down my 10 things, then I send positive thoughts to three people. And it's usually people I'm struggling with or, people from the past who I'm holding on to stuff with. I just send good thoughts because I'm like, let's flush out the negativity as much as possible. And then I sit for 5 minutes in silence and I focus on my breath. So my mind will wander and then I bring it back to my breath. And then my mind, and that's like just the most simple meditation where it's training my brain to come back to the moment because in the moment everything is okay and in the moment there's no fear, there's no what ifs, there's no regret, you're just present. So that's my little like I don't know 10-minute morning routine and then at night I have a vision for my life that I have written out. It's like 3 journal pages long and I read it. And like it just starts out with like I wake up feeling amazing. It's just like this vision of the perfect day and my perfect life that I read through every night before bed, and then I have a list of affirmations that like, I am enough, and I'm so happy and grateful now that, and like I have all my different affirmations. And then my last one I say right before bed is something wonderful is going to happen to me tomorrow. And so I
Oh,
know that sounds like kind of a lot, but it's like 10 minutes and 10 minutes to just like bookend my day with goodness.
yeah.
And that's the type of thing that I would love for athletes to do, like do a little journaling and after practice that's like what went well, what didn't go well, what did I learn? Start your day with 5 minutes of either guided or just silent meditation where you're just practicing being in the moment and it will literally change your brain. Like all of these things that I do are based on research that shows that you will change your brain, you will change your life. So I'm like, I might as well spend a few minutes a day doing these simple things
Yeah,
to
not
get
even that long.
life growing. Yeah, it's not hard. It's not
Yeah.
like I'm meditating for 45 minutes 5 times a day. It's like I have my little journal that I have to, it sits on top of my novel that I'm like really excited to get to, but I'm like, I journal first and then I read and then I go to sleep.
Oh, I like that. Very consistent.
Mhm.
What kind of legacy do you hope to leave in the world of mental performance and youth sports?
Yes. So, I mean, I will like part of our mission is to be the number one mental training program for gymnastics families that's leaving families better than we found them. But the other like the sub mission is changing youth sports forever by giving little girls a voice, essentially. So when athletes have a voice and they're not afraid to use it and they can do it respectfully and with confidence, then you don't need to worry about things like consent, like I didn't understand what consent was until I was in my mid 20s and there were some repercussions to that. And so I want little girls to walk into the world as strong women with voices of value and worth who are not afraid of hard things. And I want them walking away from a sport that has nurtured them and given them those skills. And ultimately, I'd love to put all those toxic environments out of business. Like that would be a fun like cherry on top, to make sure that when you sign your 2-year-old up for gymnastics, that they are safe to fall in love with that sport.
Yeah, I love that. Well, my last question for you is what matters most to you, the destination, the journey, or the company?
Oh my gosh. Well, the journey. I mean, that's really what we teach is that when you get hung up on the outcome, it causes stress, it can cause anxiety. I mean, when anyone goes in for their big game or whatever, the best thing you could do is feel your feet on the ground
Mm.
and, take in the colors all around you. And that's one of the reasons why I do my little mental routines is so that I can get in the moment because you don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. But today, like I constantly am saying to myself, if life never gets any better than it is right now, I am so lucky. And that, like, it's the truth. Every single time that I think to say that, if it never gets any better, I am so, so lucky, then all the rest is just gravy. And I think the company you keep is part of that if you're not like remembering who's there with you helping. But really that journey, if you can embrace the journey, then you already have arrived.
Yeah, wow. I really like that. Well, thank you so much, Rebecca, for joining me. To my listeners, mind strong, game on.
Awesome. Thank you so much.